Let me hit you with something explosive right out of the gate. Those were viewpoint captures, which means cops knew exactly where a specific person was standing. Thousands of eyeballs have scoured that aerial video. Journalists, armchair detectives, dedicated sleuths who burned weeks committing every single inch of Nancy's estate to memory. Ex-cops, film crews, and obsessed viewers pausing that clip frame by agonizing frame. They memorized the exact layout of those woods. Every single person hunted for identical clues. Searching for dug-up dirt, weird tracks, signs of a struggle, displaced items, or anything sinister. Scanning for anything out of whack in the very spot holding the dark truth of Nancy Guthrie's fate. Yet despite all that relentless staring, with countless hours spent analyzing those clips, not a single soul caught what one particular guy noticed. We are talking about a veteran murder investigator from Puma County. He is not some rookie from a far-off city with clashing rules and unfamiliar landscapes. An ex-murder investigator from Puma County, the exact same district legal zone and sandy wasteland bordering the precise style of estates where Nancy resided. This guy devoted his entire life to picking apart murder sites right where Nancy Guthrie vanished. Who else understands the raw layout of Tucson real estate? Who truly gets how cops navigate these yards? Furthermore, who comprehends the hidden meaning? When those agents maneuver through a scene a certain way, enter Kurt Dabb. Sitting down with reporter Brian Anton on day 59 of the search, Dabb reviewed that aerial video and instantly spotted a massive detail that completely shatters our understanding of Nancy's house. Zero guesswork involved, no personal theories either. He pinpointed an exact forensic method, a maneuver boasting a formal title, strict rules, and highly specific triggers for its use. Plus, he broke down exactly why finding this tactic at her place completely flips how we evaluate the clues. His breakdown alters reality. Quick heads up before diving deeper. Every single detail shared here stems from open source data, verified contacts, and transparent deductions. We never point baseless fingers here. We dig deep. We demand answers. We let the hard proof guide our path. Let's orient ourselves. First time watching, do not expect a beginner's summary today. Our team has already ripped Nancy Guthrie's mystery wide open in previous drops. The core details, the chronological events, the proof, and the ever-growing mountain of unresolved mysteries. Need a refresher course? Go hit play on part 1. Today is a hardcore breakdown of one massive bombshell dropped on day 59, and exactly what it forces us to reevaluate regarding every shred of physical proof at Nancy's residence. Current status: 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie vanished into thin air from her Tucson, Arizona residence back in February 2026. Enter Ashley Banfield, a seasoned broadcaster armed with heavy network backing and enough emotional drive to prevent this mystery from fading into obscurity. Her hit show, Drop Dead Serious, remains an absolute goldmine for meticulously fact-checked updates regarding the mystery, earning frequent shout-outs on our channel. That program successfully forced authorities to chase critical leads destined for the graveyard. Federal agents stepped in, Puma County deputies took action. Authorities scoured the grounds repeatedly instead of just once. K-9 units sniffed for remains. Aerial bots monitored the sky. The sheer volume of police presence at her house obliterates the normal response you see during the opening months of a typical runaway case. We previously dissected the fake break-in theory. Clues hint that someone tampered with Nancy's rear entrance during the incident. We already debated the genetic material on the planter. We tackled the disabled porch lens, the hidden secondary video feds refused to address the medical implant schedule, the conflicting extortion demands, and the empty lot next door. Separately, these clues spark serious doubt. Merged together, they reveal law enforcement treating this ground zero with a ferocious urgency that completely betrays the official classification of the file. And now Kurt Dabb enters the chat. He blessed us with a specific phrase, a forensic label explaining exactly why the cops went so hard. Who is this guy? Unpacking his background is absolutely crucial for understanding this mess. He is a former murder investigator for Puma County. Let the local maps sink in. Puma County swallows up Tucson entirely. It is Nancy's home turf. It is the exact zone where she vanished into thin air. Dabb isn't some random spectator applying generic police logic from a totally faraway district, a completely unfamiliar weather zone, or vastly different murder environments. He tackled this tape as a seasoned pro who battled brutal offenses within the precise, local, and systemic framework driving this current manhunt. When a local veteran murder cop views aerial tapes of a regional disappearance and drops highly guarded forensic terms, you better believe it is not small talk. That is elite deductive reasoning from a leader who physically executed those maneuvers, sweating in the Tucson heat, while ordering rookies to deploy the exact methods he spotted on screen. Brian Anton stands out as a fiercely relentless reporter covering this tragedy. He hits the pavement, grinds hard, cultivates insider trust, and delivers verified interviews that wildly upgrade our collective grasp on Nancy Guthrie's brutal fate. That intense sit-down on day 59 easily ranks as the most monumental bombshell dropped throughout this entire ordeal. not due to wild theories, but rather the hard technical truths he formally exposed. The tape is real. His exact words are locked in. He put his reputation on the line, meaning his statements cannot be brushed off as rumors, since he stated pure facts. He broke down the visuals using elite insider jargon, fully aware of the strategy's true purpose and execution. So what exactly are viewpoint captures? Let's define viewpoint captures. Dab tossed this phrase around. We are talking about crime scene techs snapping targeted images. He essentially claimed he witnessed viewpoint framing, meaning the cops definitely knew a suspect stood in a very specific spot, viewpoint framing. If that phrase sounds alien to you, it is not because it is rare. You missed it because it is highly classified police jargon, totally excluded from everyday public true crime chatter. It belongs strictly to the secret language of murder squads. Academies drill it into rookies. It serves as standard protocol under very rigid, high-stakes conditions. Furthermore, spotting this specific tactic unlocks a massive chain of dark revelations. Brace yourself for the real truth. Step directly inside a suspect's shoes. That is the undeniable power of modern forensic perspective. Photography and video capturing the exact vantage point an individual held as a critical event unfolded. Investigators refuse mere approximations, demanding instead the flawless replication of an individual's precise location matching their exact elevation and angle of view perfectly. The ultimate goal remains brutally simple, recording the precise visual reality experienced from that spot, stripping away mere possibilities or broad overviews of the surrounding environment entirely. Forensic teams establish the undeniable physical geometry of sight, proving what a person witnessed while standing crouching or navigating through those definitive geographic coordinates. This meticulous technique locks in an enduring evidentiary record, forever capturing one individual's literal line of sight during a crucial split second of the investigated timeline. Consider the sheer difficulty here. Capturing these viewpoints demands absolute certainty regarding the subject's initial whereabouts. Detectives must lock down spatial coordinates with such extreme accuracy that they can flawlessly recreate the individual's exact placement during the incident in question. Relying strictly on hard physical clues or forensic data authorities must confidently pinpoint a suspect's exact geographic placement and vertical elevation. Once that precise visual trajectory is established, they snap the photo to permanently freeze the viewpoint, elevating this far beyond ordinary forensic documentation. Routine field photography merely observes establishing a baseline by recording scattered evidence-damaged items and the overall environmental conditions discovered upon initial police arrival. Detectives casually stroll through snapping pictures of crimson stains, abandoned weapons, shattered locks, and overall floor plans, providing utterly vital but totally conventional visual records. Conversely, viewpoint imagery rebuilds reality rather than simply cataloging it, actively recreating a subject's precise location and visual perspective to resolve one highly targeted inquiry. Did a suspect hiding by the rear entrance actually spot the kitchen? Or could a lurker, crouching inside the flower bed, truly monitor the nearby pavement? Would a trespasser waiting by the side fence maintain an unobstructed visual of the front porch? Routine forensic snapshots utterly fail to resolve such mysteries. Solving these visual puzzles demands an intentional, painstaking replication of an individual's physical stance and location. This specific inquiry carries immense weight simply because detectives only pursue it after gathering concrete proof. They pair eyewitness testimony with deep forensic analysis to confirm exactly how an individual navigated that environment. You absolutely cannot execute these visual recreations blindly. Capturing an unverified or hypothetical physical stance is entirely impossible. Officers deploy this strategy only after piecing together sufficient movement data, necessitating hard visual proof of what the suspect could actually witness or completely miss. This happens whenever their exact field of vision must become an indestructible evidentiary record, perfectly prepped for presentation during fierce courtroom battles. This specific methodology is exactly what DAB spotted within the aerial drone captures of the New York property, highlighting its selective application. DAB went way beyond merely naming the tactic by revealing its typical applications, a revelation that should absolutely stun anyone tracking this trial, as these photos primarily feature in police shootouts. Mandated by strict protocols following any police shooting, investigators absolutely must verify the exact visual reality experienced by the involved officer. They must confirm if a legitimate danger actually existed and prove the deadly reaction matched the perceived threat, creating a vital force assessment mechanism. Ultimately, it determines whether the individual firing the gun actually possessed an unobstructed view of their alleged target. Judges heavily depend upon these visual recreations, relying on forensic photographers stepping directly behind the involved deputies to perfectly frame the exact scenario they supposedly witnessed. State attorneys weaponize these images while defense teams vigorously attack them, recognizing they form an unshakable geometric record of a pivotal legally binding moment in time. Detectives routinely utilize this imagery during blade assault inquiries, desperately needing to map out the spatial dynamic between predator and prey while determining their intersecting visual fields. A predator's physical stance reveals everything about an ambush, exposing their starting location and proving if the target ever possessed a chance to spot the incoming strike. Analyzing their placement near doors or windows practically screams premeditation, laying bare their calculated navigation through the treacherous environment. Viewpoint imagery securely locks down these coordinates and visual trajectories forever. This guarantees the assailant's perspective remains perfectly preserved, ready for brutal cross-examination and rigorous testing by all legal factions in court. These visual tactics remain absolutely fundamental during brutal assault inquiries. They are incredibly vital when authorities recreate chaotic clashes between multiple individuals. Such imagery proves essential in understanding an assailant's vantage point, clarifying exactly what they saw and why their victim remained trapped. Such photographs act as the ultimate mechanism for cementing the grim reality of an attack, serving as powerful instruments of both recreation and justice. They exist solely to resolve rigidly defined questions about intensely specific criminal events. Their entire value stems from one universal truth: your geographic stance dictates your reality. A person's exact vantage point completely dictates both the unfolding tragedy and the subsequent legal proof. Yet they remain completely absent from disappearance cases. Process that chilling fact. When hunting for a lost individual, nobody wastes time recreating violent struggle timelines. Detectives simply do not care about a suspect's precise vantage point. They are desperately hunting a human being, hurriedly scanning vast environments purely to track an unknown departure route. This represents an entirely alien investigative objective, demanding completely separate methodologies. The chosen photographic strategy fundamentally shifts depending on the specific mystery being solved. During typical manhunts, the driving questions remain straightforward. Where did they vanish to? Which hidden pathways were utilized? Which sectors desperately require sweeping? Search parties constantly radiate outward from the final confirmed sighting, desperately attempting to trace their mysterious footsteps. Conversely, rebuilding a brutal crime scene triggers wildly different interrogations. What unfolded in this room? Who orchestrated the carnage? Where did they stand? What did their eyes capture? Furthermore, how do detectives forge an indestructible evidentiary chain of those grim moments capable of surviving intense courtroom scrutiny? These contrasting investigative missions do not even share the same universe. They represent completely separate realities, utterly disconnected from one another. Two completely separate inquiries will trigger entirely distinct police tactics. From the ground up, viewpoint photography falls exclusively into that latter, much darker classification. A standard hunt for a vanished individual never involves planting yourself in one exact spot just to document the precise line of sight from that angle. Wondering about a person's exact field of vision only matters if detectives are actively plotting a known suspect's path through an area. We clearly spotted this tactic during the aerial surveillance of that estate. Accuracy is absolutely crucial when breaking down the exact details Kurt witnessed. He reviewed that aerial video and spotted detectives actively capturing those precise line-of-sight angles. Those agents actively working the estate deliberately arranged themselves to capture very particular angles. Their physical stances prove they were documenting the exact viewpoint of a designated individual who previously stood in that exact spot. Several weeks back, the whole situation felt incredibly bizarre to me, especially since nobody had mentioned gunfire whatsoever. Still, they apparently had equipment mounted high on the rooftops, perhaps utilizing those viewpoint captures to calculate elevation or determine specific spatial dimensions. At least that was my immediate, undeniable impression of their tactical strategy when I initially watched the footage play out. His explanation detailed images captured from the precise location where an individual waited, perfectly recording the exact visual field available to someone looking out from that particular angle. This was far from a casual perimeter sweep or a routine evidence log. The detective outlined a highly calculated procedure proving law enforcement was actively plotting out an individual's physical location. They already possessed enough intel to map out an exact suspect's path and pinpoint their precise stance while the mysterious events unfolded at that residence. That heavily circulated aerial video actually caught federal agents executing specialized tactics that completely flew over the average viewer's head. Journalists, local sleuths, and internet detectives all analyzed the clips. Most folks simply noticed authorities wandering the grounds, observing details, and logging the general area. Yet when an expert tuned in, he recognized cops actively determining the exact visual range of an established suspect from a highly targeted spot. These interpretations are worlds apart, bridging the massive divide between civilian assumptions and a seasoned homicide investigator's keen eye is the entire focus of our breakdown today. Repeated sweeps, combined with specialized tactics, change everything. We need to break down these revelations alongside the other established facts regarding the estate's forensic examination. Federal agents completely refused to stop at a single sweep of the estate. Official public documents confirm they returned repeatedly. Scouring the exact same area over and over is highly unusual. Routine vanishing cases usually involve only one initial sweep. Detectives typically grab the available clues, photograph the location thoroughly, and quickly shift focus toward tracking down leads. They chase down call logs, bank statements, bystander testimonies, and security tapes from neighboring storefronts. Cops rarely circle back to ground zero without a compelling reason pulling them in. The primary location serves strictly as a launching pad. After completing the log, the manhunt expands outward to chase the victim's lingering footprints. Authorities only re-enter a location when tangible proof demands it, never because of empty hands. Fresh clues indicate overlooked details, or better yet, prove the initial forensic assessment fell brutally short. It means the environment still holds critical secrets begging to be successfully extracted. Every single follow-up visit signifies a highly calculated professional consensus that the property still conceals incredibly valuable puzzle pieces. Devising another sweep burns massive federal funds, meaning top-tier brass ultimately concluded that mining the site, again absolutely justified burning through those massive budgets. Repeatedly searching the property guarantees authorities continually discovered fresh justification to launch another raid. This proves the victim's residence, the exact terrain marking her final confirmed whereabouts, continuously surrendered vital new clues. These leads were undeniably massive, perfectly rationalizing the steep price of shipping federal agents back to a suburban Arizona house. The intel carried such weight that agents fundamentally doubted their own thoroughness during those initial 2 sweeps of the grounds. Ponder the absolute gravity of that tactical stance. The Bureau does not possess infinite cash, nor do they function without strict oversight. Dispatching teams to repeatedly tear through a site demands ironclad authorization for every single trip. A solid motive always exists. A higher-up scrutinized the gathered evidence and firmly concluded that the premises still harbored hidden intel. Amazingly, command reached that exact same verdict on multiple different occasions. Add the detective's brilliant insight into the mix. If agents genuinely captured vantage point imagery at the estate, it means their priorities drastically shifted during those repeated searches. The focus violently pivoted away from locating the victim, morphing into a quest to map an outsider's exact visual range. That logic abandons standard rescue protocols and enters the realm of malicious event reenactment. Pushing for those specific angles proves authorities had successfully plotted a prime suspect's physical journey. They urgently needed science to validate exactly what that person witnessed in real time. These viewpoint images cannot exist in isolation. The photos fit perfectly into a chaotic manhunt that repeatedly circled back to the estate, continually unearthing fresh excuses to re-enter. Law enforcement viewed the grounds as an absolute goldmine of clues long after the primary resident vanished into thin air. Each subsequent visit to the residence effectively expanded their undeniable scientific dossier. While compiling those files, detectives suddenly transitioned to the brutal photography tactics exclusively utilized for recreating savage offenses. Combining repeated raids with targeted viewpoint photography creates a chilling realization when analyzed together. Let's successfully separate undeniable facts from pure mystery right now. We must remain brutally transparent regarding the actual frustrating limitations of our current evidentiary puzzle. Nobody knows exactly which specific raid actually produced those vital line-of-sight photographs. The initial sweep might have secured them, or perhaps a subsequent follow-up visit did. That aerial video merely immortalizes a tiny fraction of the official timeline. The expert exclusively recognized the forensic strategy based on those brief visual snippets. The identity of the mapped individual remains totally unknown. Viewpoint captures strictly immortalize the precise placement of a targeted suspect. The official files hide exactly who stood in that spot. Were detectives retracing Nancy's final steps before she vanished into thin air? Or were they actually tracking a phantom suspect's deadly path? This specific forensic method ignores identity. Instead, it brutally exposes the exact scenario authorities desperately needed to map out. However, Dab absolutely nailed one undeniable fact: detectives definitively deployed this exact visual mapping strategy on site. Cops never use this tactic for standard runaways. It exclusively belongs in the playbook for piecing together brutal, blood-soaked crime scenes. Dab's breakdown uncovers another chilling reality. Law enforcement locked away every single photograph taken from those highly specific vantage points. You will not find them in media briefings, nor inside any formal bulletins from the FBI or Puma County authorities. They are missing from every legal filing and dossier leaked since Nancy vanished months ago. Sure, ordinary citizens watched the aerial video, yet the hidden truth remains concealed: the actual ground-level view captured by detectives. We have zero clue what the person occupying that precise spot ultimately witnessed. Those hidden visual trajectories mapped out Nancy's yard, exposing exactly what a lurking watcher could spot from perfectly chosen hiding places. Detectives currently hold those explosive details. They intentionally buried them, tying this secret directly into the primary evidence pool. Consider this alongside every massive clue we previously chased, since Dab's bombshell demands context. Remember our deep dive into the manipulated rear entry hypothesis? That wild idea suggests Nancy's rear entrance bears the unmistakable scars of whatever dark event unfolded that day. Those clues point toward a heavily doctored crime scene. Someone painstakingly crafted a fake story regarding her sudden, forced departure. Taking targeted photos by that entrance means authorities gauged the intruder's exact field of vision. They checked if passing cars could spot the suspect. Did the attacker have a perfect view inside detectives needed to know if that shadowy threshold provided enough camouflage to abduct an 84-year-old victim entirely unnoticed? Recall our previous chat regarding genetic material found outside. A simple planter on Nancy's lawn produced a massive biological hit. Officials refuse to explain those forensic findings, though rumors swirl. Where that ceramic container sat is crucial, and the visual angles radiating from it mean absolutely everything. Snapping tactical images right there proves the cops desperately wanted to figure out what a person crouching by the soil could actually witness. Think back to the empty house sitting directly next door. That adjacent lot was completely abandoned the night she suddenly vanished. An empty house guarantees zero nosy neighbors, drastically shifting the visual blind spots spanning across Nancy's entire yard. Standing in a specific patch of her grass completely changes whether the dead zone next door blocks your view, relying entirely on your physical angle. Mapping visual trajectories around those hotspots permanently solves the geometric puzzle of this crime. Yet authorities keep this ironclad proof securely under wraps. The police department's outward attitude reveals a massive, deeply troubling trend. We must confront it head-on to decode their bizarre handling of the probe. Detectives are actively choking off all information regarding the crisis. This intense secrecy crushes standard protocol. Tactical secrecy greatly differs from an absolute bureaucratic blackout. Smart detectives use tactical silence to carefully construct their trap, ensuring no loose lips destroy their highly sensitive, ongoing manhunt. That method stays sharp and intentional. Paying attention reveals they only hide highly targeted details, a particular bloody weapon or a prime suspect. They bury their final theories. That kind of gag order draws an outline around the hidden prize. Conversely, an agency-wide blackout feels massive and completely unfocused. A total stonewall manipulates the grand illusion. It controls the media spin, twists the vocabulary used, and completely rebrands the crime's fundamental label. They tirelessly peddle a fabricated storyline. When the actual sleuthing contradicts their fairy tale leaders, like Sheriff Nanos, trigger massive trust issues which we previously exposed. PR teams aggressively sanitize every press release. They toss out useless crumbs to pacify angry locals, effectively preventing anyone from actually dissecting the raw truth. Federal agents ignoring the rumored second security tape is highly intentional. Refusing to acknowledge that crucial videotape is a calculated move, not a sloppy mistake. The Bureau never accidentally skips inquiries concerning their operations. Actively dodging inquiries regarding an isolated clue is a very conscious, ironclad choice. Such a refusal screams volumes about the narrative they are guarding. Detectives simply do not map visual fields and then brag about it on television. Recreating the event relies heavily on this hidden method. It forms the unseen bedrock of the prosecution's strategy long before cameras ever start rolling. Cops use it as a foundational skeleton. They weave physical clues onto it, slowly transforming raw data into an unstoppable weapon for the courtroom. This represents the absolute groundwork. You never hear about it at media briefings, since podiums showcase finished stories rather than the messy investigative grind. The shocking truth is, this visual mapping trick wasn't exposed by a glossy public relations team. It bypassed standard channels and ignored whistleblower leaks. Instead, a veteran Puma County murder investigator spotted the truth hiding within ordinary YouTube aerial clips. His trained eyes caught the subtle clues immediately. That single realization exposes a terrifying gap, separating the police's secret files from their soothing public fairy tales. We are watching two completely different movies. Citizens get the watered-down summary, while cops hoard the terrifying, unvarnished master file locked deep inside their evidence room. Visual maps repeated forensic sweeps, calculated blind spots, and a full physical replay of Nancy's nightmare. The official story drastically contradicts reality. Here comes the bombshell. Brace yourself for this. Speaking directly to Brian Anton on day 59, Kurt Dabb didn't just casually label those visual trajectories as slightly odd or unique. He delivered a brutal diagnosis. Charting visual angles means mapping out exactly where a killer stood during a deadly attack, similar to analyzing a police shootout. Finding this advanced technique deployed at Nancy's house proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that detectives were actively analyzing a savage murder scene. They completely abandoned the standard runaway narrative to focus on a violent bloodbath. Those two paths utilize entirely separate playbooks. They tackle completely opposing mysteries using vastly distinct weapons. Slapping a harmless label on a press release never dictates the actual boots-on-the-ground manhunt. Detectives pivot their entire attack strategy solely based on what the gruesome clues dictate. Bloodshed was practically written on the walls. A veteran Puma County homicide investigator, drawing on decades of grim experience, confirmed they had stumbled onto a horrifyingly violent crime scene. When someone vanishes, detectives normally ask one simple question: where did they vanish to and how can we track them down? That standard hunt always points outward. Did she vanish in a car, or did security cameras catch her fleeing the estate? Typically, a victim's home only serves as a quick launch pad for cops to establish a timeline before they chase leads down the road. But rebuilding a brutal attack shifts the focus completely. Who committed this atrocity, and how do we lock down the forensic clues to ensure a ruthless courtroom conviction? Everything flips to an internal focus. What horrors unfolded inside? Who walked through here, and in what exact order? Which forensic clues survived the attack? This house isn't merely step one. It constitutes ground zero, demanding endless returns and exhaustive forensic sweeps. Investigators literally place themselves in the suspect's shoes to map out exact visual fields, knowing these crucial lines of sight will eventually build an unshakable case for the courtroom prosecutors. Capturing those vantage points proves authorities were treating this as foul play immediately. Seeing this tactic deployed at the estate confirms an aerial drone caught them mapping a homicide early on. It happened during the initial forensic sweep. Detectives had already stopped wondering where Nancy vanished to, choosing instead to catalog the grim reality of her fate rather than treat her as a runaway. They were actively piecing together a murder. This happened by day 59. At the absolute latest, though, likely much sooner, depending on exactly when that critical drone recording was filmed during the probe. Let that sink in for a second. Cops were executing severe homicide protocols at Nancy Guthrie's residence within the first 8 weeks, deploying tactics usually reserved for brutal knife attacks or fatal gunfights. They carefully mapped out killer vantage points and sightlines, digging into grim details that a standard runaway case would literally never require anyone to examine. So why keep this hidden? It changes everything about the current hunt, proving that the heavily sanitized press releases and incredibly cautious police statements, along with the glaring lack of official suspects or recognized murder locations, completely contradict the heavy-hitting forensic case detectives are quietly assembling behind firmly locked doors. Authorities can project the illusion of a standard search to the media, all while secretly tearing the house apart to reconstruct a violent atrocity. Playing coy with the press is a perfectly normal strategy. Police pull this trick constantly when they secretly know a murder occurred but haven't quite gathered enough bulletproof evidence for a courtroom trial yet. Cops never broadcast their ultimate theories until they can make an arrest, preferring to build their trap in total secrecy. They quietly log the gore capture those critical sightlines and constantly swarm the estate whenever a new forensic lead demands another deep dive. Meanwhile, they confidently tell the press the hunt is merely ongoing, strictly refusing to elaborate on any actual details. Claiming the hunt is active might be factually accurate, but it serves purely as a smokescreen to keep everyone completely blind to their actual tactical maneuvers. The secret police agenda looks absolutely nothing like the simple search narrative that casual observers think they are watching. Kurt Dabb accidentally cracked the code, giving us a rare glimpse into the authentic manhunt rather than the sanitized media circus and empty press briefings, blowing past the fake runaway labels and slick sheriff quotes to reveal cops literally standing in exact spots across the estate to map out the attack, snapping crucial photos from the killer's exact vantage point to perfectly trace a phantom walking through the house, proving without a doubt that an intruder was absolutely present, an attacker whose precise field of vision is legally crucial, leaving a footprint that federal agents have now permanently immortalized using strategies reserved strictly for solving the most gruesome homicides imaginable. Those hidden files and chilling photos are totally real. Whatever twisted sequence the cops uncovered from those vantage points remains locked in a secret folder far from our eyes. But here is exactly what we need to monitor next. Those sightline photos represent a single data point, yet they brilliantly expose the true aggressive forensic stance authorities are actually taking. Whenever this mountain of clues finally hits the news following a major bust or a grand jury indictment shatters the silence. These exact aerial photographs will serve as foundational proof, finally displayed with their true, terrifying context. Once revealed, they will resolve mysteries we could not even fathom yet. Thanks to Dabb's brilliant insight, we finally realize detectives have been chasing these dark theories since day 59. Proving the estate was meticulously analyzed using hardcore murder protocols rather than the soft-touch tactics normally deployed for a simple runaway case, we also realize the average viewer completely missed the explosive implications of Dabb's revelation. That isn't a knock against the dedicated sleuths obsessing over this mystery, but rather proof of the highly technical expertise needed to spot covert police sightlines buried within aerial drone sweeps. Even veteran true crime addicts rarely grasp these tactics or their dark meaning. Yet Dabb instantly recognized the maneuver and fearlessly exposed it on tape. Calling it out is incredibly vital, not because it alters Nancy's tragic fate, which was sealed long ago, but because the cops clearly figured out the grim truth right away. Exposing this tactic finally shatters the illusion, granting everyone a backstage pass into the gritty reality of a manhunt heavily sanitized by police PR spinners. Relying on the sharp instincts of a veteran who actually ran these exact drills, It proves the chaotic scene at the estate completely contradicted a normal rescue mission. Instead, it screamed of a catastrophic event, the kind of horror requiring meticulous spatial mapping, forcing agents to mimic a suspect's exact posture to record their sinister view. Now we wait for the next bombshell. From the sketchy ransom breakdown, to the severed doorbell feeds, the suspicious FBI secrecy over that second lens and the chilling pacemaker data, down to the stage patio and aerial sightlines, every detail forms a crucial thread existing purely because hardcore proof exists. And that mountain of proof survives because whatever nightmare unfolded at Nancy Guthrie's estate left behind such a massive forensic footprint that federal agents just keep returning shown endlessly, quietly forging the ironclad indictment that will inevitably shock the world. Meanwhile, Ashley Banfield relentlessly hunts for justice on Drop Dead Serious, honoring the victim beautifully. Our fiercely dedicated true crime community has kept the spotlight burning bright on a mystery that without such relentless pressure would have quietly vanished into the forgotten graveyard of cold cases. Never stop demanding answers, the clues are screaming. Dab just exposed the tip of the iceberg, and if you just found us, hit play on video 1. Nothing about these bizarre camera angles makes sense until you plug them into the massive web of clues we have been untangling from day 1. Every single detail we covered today connects directly back to that master timeline we are building together. Make sure to join the channel and turn on those alerts right now. The developments here change daily, and we absolutely will not rest until justice is served. To the loyal crew who stood by us from the start, I appreciate you. Your relentless dedication to uncovering the truth is exactly what prevents stories like this from fading into the shadows. Let us be real, the authorities do not always keep these files active entirely on their own. Cases only remain active because society absolutely refuses to stop asking the hard questions. Nancy Guthrie needs real justice. Her daughter requires complete closure. Without this incredible online army pushing for transparency, those vital clues would already be completely forgotten today. Catch you all in part 6. Please note that all details shared here come directly from verified public files, formal recorded statements, and our own clearly defined independent research. Any speculation shared serves strictly as educated guessing rather than proven truth. Furthermore, we have not accused a single person of committing any crimes here. Remarks from Kurt Dabb were pulled straight from his formal sit-down alongside reporters Brian and Tassine. To dive deeper into this mystery, check out Ashley Banfield and her Drop Dead Serious audio show, featuring heavily vetted information. Anyone holding vital clues regarding this missing woman must immediately dial the Puma County authorities or the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Finally, understand that our broadcast operates completely independently from the police, corporate news networks, and the victims' relatives. In a world flooded with noise, rumors, and fast opinions, this story reminds us of one powerful truth. Real justice begins with patience, integrity, and the courage to look deeper. What others may dismiss as ordinary can carry life-changing meaning when examined with wisdom, experience, and care. That is the lesson we cannot afford to forget. When a vulnerable elderly person disappears, society is tested. We are called not only to search for answers, but to protect dignity, defend truth, and refuse indifference. Every careful observation, every verified fact, and every honest voice becomes an act of compassion. Justice is not built on guesswork. It is built on responsibility. This also teaches us to value expertise. A trained eye can see what the crowd misses. Experience matters. Discipline matters. Truth matters. And when people commit themselves to facts instead of speculation, they become a light in the darkness. Most of all, this story is a reminder that no person should ever be forgotten. The elderly, the vulnerable, and the voiceless deserve our attention, our respect, and our protection. A caring society does not look away. It stands together, asks hard questions, and keeps searching until truth is brought into the light.